a start, basically the agenda is there in front of us. So basically we'll have the safety project and then a sister part of the Smart Cities Marketplace, and then following on from that, part of the Data Vaults project covering their energy use of personal data. Just a quick word of what we're trying to do overall, the initiative, is we basically are looking to try to remove as many of the obstacles which would stop a smart city using, in our case, personal data, but just generally all data. And we've based what we're doing on a study from the Ruggedize project, which identified maybe half a dozen obstacles facing a smart city from deploying urban data platforms and from generally using data most effectively. And so these workshops, we've been picking off some of these different obstacles, and one of them clearly was a recommendation from the study was to capture and pilot joint business cases that will help multiple cities adopt. And so that's what we're kind of trying to start to tease out today. And this is absolutely our first look at the finance side of it. The other areas we've been looking at are the legal side, standards, governance, and then clearly we're bringing as many projects together who will be providing the technical tools to help this happen. And I suppose the overview is that we're trying to have cities ready to adopt the outputs from all these projects and initiatives. And so that's just put it into context. And so I'll just hand over now to Gert Breitfuss from the Safety Project, if it's Gert doing it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sean.
And join.
Can you grant me the right? Oops.
Yes, Yuri is in charge of the technology today.
Yeah.
Because I make a mess of it.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
First of all, I also want to welcome my project colleague Mihnea. I guess you're in the line.
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Hi, Mihnea. So yeah, Mihnea Tufis from EuroCat in Barcelona, and my name is Gert Breitfuss from Know-Center in Austria. We would like to give you in the next, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour, a short, really brief overview on SafeDeed project. So as Sean, you already mentioned, so we are really covering everything what you mentioned before. So the technology side, the business side, and the legal side, and we're really happy to show you what the stage of our project, because we are already a bit quite near the end of the project, and it's nice to show you what we achieved in the last 2.5 years. So let's see if it's working. Yeah, just a brief agenda. So I will give you a bit an overview on the partner structure and objectives of the project, followed by just a brief view on our data demonstrator we developed within the project runtime. Then some tools and methods for developing data-driven business, a legal tool, and then my colleague Mihnea will show you in detail the data valuation component. So how to put, let's say, a price tag on data sets. And then we would like to discuss, have a short Q&A session at the end and see if there is anything where we can collaborate or what you want to know further in detail. Yeah, what's SafeDeed? So SafeDeed is, as you know, an EU project that has been running for 2.5 years now, so 3 years in total. Is led by the Know-Center here in Graz, Austria. So the entire consortium consists of 8 partners. And SafeDeed is dedicated to the vision of enabling secure and privacy-preserving data exchange through enabling technologies such as secure multi-party computation. The main objectives are to create economic added value for companies and individuals using these technologies to make data value visible, and all this, of course, under legal and ethical aspects. So here you can see an overview of the structure of the project. It consists of 3 research centers, Know-Center, EuroCAD, and Research Studios Austria. So they're taking care of the technological topics of the development of the demonstrators. So Know-Center is responsible for the MPC demonstrators, EuroCAD, as you hear later, for the data evaluation research, and the colleagues from Research Studios Austria develops the de-anonymization services. You can see here also the business model innovation part. So TU Delft, together with Know-Center, is taking care of the topic of business model innovation. The question that needs to be answered here are how to generate business value with these technologies, and what's the economic benefit of these technologies. Within this work package, we developed tools and methods, which I briefly present later. K.U. Leuven takes care of the legal and ethical components and checks whether everything we developed is GDPR compliant. K.U. Leuven also developed guidelines to support data protection compliant data exchange. And of course, most important, there are 2 companies to mention, which are providing the data we used for our use cases. On the one hand, it's Infineon, the semiconductor producer. Infineon provides supply chain data where we work on a lead time based pricing solution with using MPC, and with the CRM data and live TV data provided by Forthnet, a Greek telecom and pay TV provider. We developed a demonstrator for privacy preserving data exchange. This demonstrator I will show you later on is also available on the project website. Yeah, let's say that the core of the project is our personal data demonstrator, where we have on the one side the multi-party computation demonstrator, which allows partners to compute the data without uploading. So this part of the demonstrator exemplifies the power of private set intersection. That's an MPC protocol in the context of marketing. So in particular, we enable 2 companies, in our case, the telecom company, and for example, another company could be a bank operating at the same territory, to improve their own market strategy for customers they have in common. So just in practical, so the Forthnet company, they want to know if they have regions, most likely because both companies are in Greece, where they have customers in common. So this could be done by using MPC, and in this demonstrator we are demonstrating how this works. The de-anonymization demonstrator, we want to avoid unpleasant surprises. So we want to check the data before sharing if there is any kind of risk for de-anonymize the data. So let's say the service we developed here performs an analysis of the data set. That means the goal of this trial was to apply a battery of de-anonymization tests on companies' data in order to raise privacy red flags, which is important if you want to share data with a third party. The data evaluation part is, of course, a very important part, which will be outlined later on from my colleague Mihnea from EuroCAD. The demonstrator you can find on our project website under demosafety.eu. So here you can find really all the demonstrators we have in place, the MPC demonstrator, and also the demonstrators for external analysis. I would really like to invite you to try out the demonstrators. We are at the moment are doing, let's say, testing everything with users and want to find out if the demonstrators. Please be aware that the demonstrators are not, let's say, final services. So this is quite in the development stage, but we really would like to have your feedback. If you try out and find out something, we would be happy about your feedback. There are also some YouTube videos where everything is explained in detail, and would be great if you could check out that on our website. Concerning the supporting tools for data-driven business, we developed, let's say, 3 tools. So one is the safety data map. This data map should help you to identify possible data sources that can be utilized to develop new data services. So it's you know, a kind of a canvas tool which you can use in workshop settings. We developed the data service cards. The data service cards supports you to explore data-driven business ideas. So it's kind of idea generation supporting tool. Yeah, the cards help you to enhance or develop new database services through this systematic combination of data sources, analytics methods, customer benefits, and revenue opportunities. So this is a set of 50 cards, 10 cards for each category, and it's really a useful tool to come up with use case ideas based on data. And last but not least, we developed the data-driven business canvas. This tool should assist you to determine your data-driven business model. It's really a tool to concretize your ideas, and based on the data or on the things you identify here, you should be able to at least start to develop the service with all these informations. The tools are online available at the link below, so at the Business Makeover platform. So you can see here also a kind of guiding structure. So we tried to put all the tools in a kind of path. So start with the data map, then use the cards, and then determine your data-driven business model with the canvas at the end. Yeah, coming to the legal part. So the colleagues from KU Leuven, for example, developed some legal FAQs on multi-party computation. This can be also found on the safety website. So this is a nice supporting tool, yeah, to get answers to the most common questions by using this privacy preserving technology, MPC. It's really interesting. It's unbelievable how complex the legal issues are in the context of yeah, data sharing and using new technologies. And we hope that this kind of FAQs should be really helpful to get a bit more information on that. So yeah, at the end, I just want to create awareness of our safety professional partnership community. So this is really kind of place where companies, organizations, or other EU projects come together, and we would be happy if some of the participants of the call maybe join the community and register. This is of course also open for other EU projects like Data Vaults. There is already another sister project, the partner, the project Trusts, where we already also are in discussions to use the technologies we developed within the safety project. Yeah, this is more or less a very short overview on the safety project. now I want to give the floor to my colleague Michnea, who should give you a more detailed view or insights into the data valuation component, which we developed, was developed mainly by EuroCAD, but also using other colleagues and partners within the safety project. Thanks a lot for now, and yeah, I don't know how to do the take over to Michnea. Already stopped sharing.
Jürgen, sorry, Yuri.
I hope it works now and I don't have to. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I again some issue with. I need to change some preferences, and just a second.
So in the meantime, are there any questions with?
I have a quick question. That
Sure.
the tool you have for people to assess whether their data is valuable, etc., or that tool you showed, I assume it's aimed at a company. How easy would it be to adapt it so it was aimed at a city?
You mean the demonstrator or the business?
Second, yeah, the one like the roadmap of working out the processes of what you should do, or either of them, in fact.
You mean to come up with data-driven business ideas, or is it the technology?
Yes. No, just the one which generates ideas. I assume it was for a company, but the question I was making,
No.
would it be interoperable with a city?
Of course, definitely. So it's really independently on a company or organization or a city. So it's really quite a general tool for developing or creating data-driven business. So it's totally, let's say, generic to use. So it would be great if you could try it out also in a city environment. Would be great to get the feedback on. Of course, in the meantime, we used it mostly in a company environment, but definitely it's useful also in a city context.
Excellent, thank you.
If there aren't any more questions, I can now proceed. It seems it's working now.
Yes.
Can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect.
But it's not
I'm just gonna.
Maybe you should make.
Oh yes, correct. Okay. Now it's a full screen. Okay, thank you, Gert, for the introduction of the safety project. Just a small correction on what Gert was saying. While one of the aims of the data valuation platform is to provide at some point a euro value of monetary value of the data, this is not currently done, and well, there is a big discussion for the reasons for which this is not possible yet. But anyway, I will continue right now. I'm going to give you a very brief introduction into the data valuation platform, and then I'm going to proceed with a small demo of it. The idea of the data valuation platform is obviously to be able to give a sense of what is the value of a data set that a user might upload on our data valuation platform. And there are several problems with establishing data value, problems that we have been trying to resolve in the past couple of years or more that we've been spending in this project. First of all, the fact that data value is subjective and that it's very context dependent. So one of the big challenges was for us to try to find a way to encode, to describe the context under which a data set will be used. Then the fact that it's multidimensional, and we're going to see in a second that data value depends on many properties and again dimensions of a context. a follow-up on a consequence of this is that it's very difficult to aggregate data into only the value of data into only one number or qualificative that says, okay, this is the value of your data. This is something that is pretty difficult, and some authors in the literature advise against. And then why is it so difficult? Obviously, because of the properties of data as an intangible asset. If you look at it, if you choose to look at it like this, then because data markets are still not common enough, and we have very little, let's say, ground truth to refer to and to pin our valuation to and to compare it against. Then when we're talking about personal data, there are obviously issues with intellectual property and ethical implications of treating such data as a commodity. So these are just some very, very brief observations about data value and why it was difficult for us. Then value of data doesn't necessarily mean a euro value. This is related to the comment of to my previous comment. This is something that is very connected to the activities that generate value, and these are connected to the value chain of data, which involves discovery, curation, interpretation, distribution, and exploitation of data, and the fact that a data set can be at different moments to in any of these links, of these stages along the data value chain. And now there are also views that are trying to say, okay, maybe this is not such a linear process, and in fact we can jump from one step to another, and this is rightfully so, with different versions of a data set and so on, and bring it from discovery to curation to interpretation, then jumping back to curation, for example, then to distribution and so on. So we can generate, in fact, networks of value of data. Okay, I was mentioning earlier that data valuation is a multidimensional concept. These are the dimensions that we have stopped upon after the research that we have conducted, and we were trying to implement them in our data valuation platform. So there's a business context that we're trying to incorporate in data value that refers to purpose, to frequency of use, to the benefits that can be drawn from using a data set. Then there's a legal aspect, which refers to the data protection and terms and obligation related to a data set. Then there are obviously technical aspects, and our data valuation platform is highly technical. Let's say we're trying to catch the technical context that surrounds a data set. We're performing data quality assessment, and we're trying to measure data utility. And by utility, we're thinking a lot about applicability of different machine learning algorithms to a data set. So how prone is a data set to be used in a certain with a certain machine learning to train a certain machine learning algorithm. And then the privacy aspects that Gert was mentioning, namely right now we have incorporated the de-anonymization risk analysis tool that has been developed in Safedid into our data valuation platform. You notice here I put in purple a few components, the technical components, is because these need further development, and these are even more complicated. So this whole hierarchy of dimensions goes even deeper and deeper. So in technical context, we're actually looking at availability and access, at generation, at the methods of processing the data, methods, tools, standards, things like this. Then in data quality assessment, there is a very rich literature and a lot of initiatives about how to measure data quality, how to assess data quality, the different measures, the different dimensions. We've stopped on the most common ones and those that make a lot of sense at this stage of our project, and you can see them listed over here. So completeness, validity, credibility, uniqueness, and timeliness. And then data utility, which for now includes only a classification chance estimator, which essentially tells us if you want to use your data set to train a classification algorithm, what is the probability that the result that you're going to get is purely due to chance. So this is going to tell you how good is your data set going to be for this classification type of task. And then there are other things in progress for regression and for other classes of machine learning algorithms. And with that being said, I would like to switch to the demo. I will try to be as brief as possible, and then I will let you know how you can see our other demos. So
could I just interrupt and say there
Yes.
is no great rush. You can take as long as you like because the second speaker hasn't arrived yet, so you don't have to rush.
Okay. Oh no, this is actually all right. So then I'll start with a brief comment. Gert was mentioning the different demos that are available on our project website. The current demo for the data valuation component is using an older front end. So don't be surprised if what you see right now is very different from what you see in the demo that you're going to find on our website. But I prefer to show you the newer version with the improved UI. Well, I'm actually showing you some mocks of the UI, but the idea is that the functionality is in the old one, but we have a new UI that's going to be developed soon. And since this one is more pleasant, I prefer to go ahead with this one. So this would be the data valuation platform. I'm just going to skip these introductory screens. The idea of our data valuation platform is that it provides you with a space in which you can start what we call a data valuation project. A data valuation project is formed by a data set that you're going to upload and you will want to find out the value of, and then a set of parameters consisting in questions that you will answer in the form of surveys that are going to be attached to this data set, and these answers are going to allow us to understand the context under which you want to perform the valuation of your data set, context related to the use of your data set, and of course some more objective things like the data quality assessment. So this is how it looks like. If you remember from the slide earlier, we're going to have a business part, a legal part, and then a technical and data quality assessment part. And since all these three parts require people with different level of expertise, first of all, they can be done in parallel. And second, what we call a data value project manager, right? This person here, Daniel, who is the administrator of this data valuation project, he will be able to add colleagues, for example, who are more prone to assist him with the legal aspects. Okay, so here, for example, he can add collaborator for the business part, he can add collaborators for the legal part, and they can all start working together at this data valuation project. They will go behind each of these parts: business, legal, and technical data quality and data quality assessments. We have, as I was saying, a larger survey that I'm going to show you in a second. The idea is that once one part is finished, a simple message like this, completed, appears. If something is in progress, the progress of that certain part is being shown over here. Once all these parts, the business, the legal, and the technical and data quality assessment part are finished, you will be able to obtain a report on the value of your data. A report that looks more or less like this. Yeah, okay, maybe this is much better. A report that looks more or less like this. So it provides an overall score with a radar chart that allows us to look at the different parts of the different dimensions of the value of data attached to the value of data. And for each of them, you can see the individual score. Again, these are mocks. So if something doesn't make sense, don't worry. It makes perfect sense that it doesn't make sense at this moment, right? And then so more detailed scores about each of these dimensions, so about the data quality, about the technical dimension, the business dimension, and the legal dimension, and for each of them, the components of these dimensions. So for data quality, as if you remember, we were talking about completeness, about domain validity, format validities. In the technical context, we were talking about availability and access, about generation. So these kind of things that can give you an idea of the value of your data at different levels of granularity, which is something very important because I think it addresses the issue of aggregating everything under one number. Okay, or score as we chose to provide it over here, mirroring a bit the idea of the energy classes that we see on our electronic devices. So I'm going to give you a label of the value of your data overall, but if you want to understand what's behind this C-score over here, maybe you want to take a look at the data quality, at the technical, and you can see, oh, I got an E in technical. Why is it that I got an E in technical? Well, is it because of the availability of my data set? No, it's because of the data processing issues related to my data set. So this is very briefly, if we were to look at the data valuation platform in terms of inputs and outputs. So the input would be a data set plus the context that you, as a user, as a person who wants to evaluate the data set that they own, will have to provide, and then the output will be this report on the value of the data at different levels of granularity. And now I would like to move in and move in more in depth and show you for each of the parts what we have come up with. So what's behind each of these three aspects: the business, the legal, and the technical. So for the business, for example, we have 3 subsections. If you remember, we have the subsection of on purpose, one on frequency and use, and one on benefits. And these are the questions, the type of questions that we ask. So in general about business, the sector from which to which you will apply this this data set, and we focused on very generic, very generic segmentation of industry. And then what type of data products do you want to develop with this? And the idea here is that this will inform the valuation algorithm on the purpose of your data set. What's the goal? Where do you want to get? You want to develop algorithms, you want to inform decision support, you want to perform automated decision making, so things like this. Then in terms of frequency of use, sorry, this is just to show that we are adding tooltips in the interface such that we assist the user with this. In terms of frequency of use, we're looking at the prior and the next use of the data set, and the type of questions, the type of answers that we ask the user to provide are these. So if you have used a data set within the last week, within the last month, within the last year, or within the last 5 years, and whether you will use it within a week, a month, a year, or 5 years, we're trying to understand obviously the frequency of use of your data set. And in terms of benefits, we're looking at whether the data is already making money. These are very simple yes, no questions. Whether the data will improve the efficiency of an application or business process that you have developed, whether it complements an existing application, improve customer reach, so typical business related questions. And then which part of the business process does it contribute to? So where in your organization, which part of your organization will be more impacted of the outcomes of using this data set, and which part of the organization will directly use the data, whether if it's executive, which require a higher level type of results following the use of a data set, or a middle management or others. Then in terms of technical, this is the if you remember from the slides, this is the part that branches a lot, because here we have a lot of dimensions that we look at. We have the technical survey that establishes the technical context. We have the data quality assessment, which is a more objective assessment, and we have the data utility, which refers to the chance estimators and other machine learning algorithms that I was mentioning. In terms of technical survey, we're looking at availability and access. So is the data easily accessible, publicly available? Are there any known alternatives of the data set? Again, very simple, yes, no questions. In terms of generation, we're trying to understand which sector is the data coming from. So for example, if your data is healthcare data that's coming from a government data source, this is the type of selection that you should be making over here. How was the data generated? So either through licensing, purchase, transactional. There can be different ways of generating this data. How many sources compose the data set, whether if it's a single source or you have multiple sources, and then whether the data is enterprise generated or machine generated. Then in terms of data processing, this is a bit longer, but very simple. We're looking at the tools, so the availability of tools for cleaning, processing the data, analyzing the data, profiling the data, what's the availability of whether they are out there, and then what's the level of support. And by level of support, we're talking about documentation, public APIs, forums, things like this. Then format, we're looking at the format, whether it's a structured, semi-structured, or unstructured data set, whether it has a schema, if it adheres to a standard, if this standard is open or not, and then if it has been exported from a relational database, and so on. So more and more technical questions, let's say. In terms of transformations, because this directly influences the value of the data, if there are any known transformations already performed on a specific data set, and you can see them listed over here. These are the typical ones that would happen in a data processing pipeline, in terms of structure, in terms of dealing with missing values or deriving different columns. And then whether there are any known analysis already done and available, so univariate, bivariate, multivariate analysis, feature selections, hypothesis testing. Again, these are things that move the value of the data along the data value chain that I was talking before. In terms of properties, we're looking at, we want to know whether this is streaming data or not, because this can pose additional challenges on processing the data. How fast, if it's the case, how fast this is generated, and then how recent is the data set. So questions about timeliness, let's say. Then we're almost finally looking into data quality assessment. This is a bit of an older version that doesn't contain the uniqueness and the correctness, I think. So the idea over here is that you have a good idea, you as an evaluator have a good idea of what are your data quality expectations of your data set. So maybe timeliness is not an issue for you, the fact that the data set is an old data set, so maybe you don't want to select timeliness when you're performing data quality assessment. And maybe completeness and format and domain validity are dimensions that are interesting for you. So the idea over here is that you're able to select one of the many data quality, several of the many data quality dimensions that we have implemented in our data valuation platform. Once they are selected, we go into parameterizing each of them. So here, this example is related to a data set from our telecom provider, Forthmed. You go through the fields, let's say for completeness. Completeness would refer to parameterizing the values that should be treated as missing values for each of the fields in your data set. So for example, these are the fields in your data set, and you will say, okay, I want to parameterize completeness for portability, for the portability column in my data set. Okay, and let's say these values YYY, XXX, and XXX, once I find these values, I should treat them as missing values in my data set. And I can do this for the columns, for all the columns for which I have this information. I can continue this process. Then once this is done, I can move to domain validity and do more or less the same thing. Domain validity will allow me to say, I will define for each of the columns the values that this column is allowed to take. So for example, for an age column, it will be, I don't know, 0 to 120 or something like this. For a gender column, it would be MFO or something like this. So this would be the idea over here, but in terms of how it's done exactly as for the completeness. And then for format validity, the idea would be, I'm just going to show you a quick example. Take a look at this customer ID, which contains which has this structure: digit followed by a dash followed by 5 characters. Okay, no, more than 5, 6 characters over here, alphanumeric characters. So let's say that we agree that this is a valid one, but this, since it contains another dash in between, it's not a valid one. So the idea here for format validity would be to provide rules under the form of regular expressions to be able to, like this one over here, to be able to say, okay, this is the rule that my customer ID, sorry, not portability over here, should abide to. But then again, we can also provide other rules like datetime rules in the case of the field's activation date, deactivation date, and so on. This would be it with the technical part. Then there would be finally the legal part, which was developed in collaboration with our colleagues for KU Leuven. This part has two main subparts, one related to data protection, which refers a lot to how is your data set aligned with the principles, with the GDPR principles. But let's say that this could be amended to respect other policies, other data protection policies, personal data protection policies. So these are the type of questions that we're asking over here. So does the data contain personal or sensitive? What kind of sensitive information might be personal data? Okay, was the processing of personal data private data protection principles, and enumerate them over here. We give tooltips for each of them such that it's easy for the user to refer back to them, and they, like this, they don't have to go back on the GDPR website to check all of them. Again, this kind of questions, is the controller able to demonstrate compliance with the EU GDPR? Have data subjects been given all the necessary information about processing their data? And this, in fact, answering to these questions and answering positively to these questions will add to the value of the data, because it means that this data is safe to use as per the GDPR. And then concerning terms of obligations, these are questions related to any legal or contractual restrictions related to a data set, export restrictions related to a data set, and obviously the license that applies to the type of data. And here are just the classes of licenses. We didn't list all the licenses because this could be a bit overwhelming for a user. And once this is also provided and everything has been parameterized, then a user will receive this data evaluation report that I showed you earlier. And this is it on my side. I know that there's a lot, and I'm sure you have questions. And yes, please go ahead.
So thanks ever such a lot, Meneer and Gert. Are there any questions from anybody? Just join in.
Can I ask one question? It's just to reconnect to what Sean was asking previously. Do you think that this approach could be easily adopted also by a public administration or a city administration?
I think yes, and it's a very convinced yes. Actually, we're in contact with Ayuntamiento de Barcelona, the city hall, the Barcelona City Hall. We started discussion for them to use this data valuation platform to be able to value some of the open data sets that.
Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking about open data because that's always a problem. To establish the value of what the administration is doing in such field, because it costs effort, but somehow there is the idea that it's not really worth while, and probably a tool like this might help in discovering that it's not really like that.
Yes. Then another comment is that the tool is pretty flexible to adapt. We're thinking actually of two potential ways to deploy it. One of them would be as a central platform where we would be able to as a platform that you could deploy in your organization, where you would upload your data set and you would evaluate your own data sets, and you would say, okay, in this context, this is the value of my data, the value from different perspectives, and so on. Another option is to, and we're exploring this with another project, another European project, to deploy it in the context of a data market, in which situation you would have buyers and sellers that would use this platform, and then there are a few other complications that would arise from here, because they would need to evaluate the data set from, we would need to evaluate the same data set from two different perspectives, and then there will be probably a negotiation part or a sort of an agreement part to say, okay, this is the way I look at this data set, this is the way you look at this data set, and then from there jump to a monetary value, like Gert was hinting before. But yeah, these are the two classes of uses that we're seeing right now: to use it on your own or to use it in the context of a data market.
Yeah, but would there be also some possibility, for example, for a single individual to let's say try and understand the value of his personal data with a tool like this?
Of his his personal data, yes, in the sense, the one data point, sure. Let's say I'm generating a single data point about myself with I don't know, name, surname, and other personal information. If I parameterize the rest, if I parameterize the data quality assessment part properly, sure, yes, that could be useful, and he could get exactly the same type of report. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking of something like a connection with the Data Vaults project, since the idea of Data Vaults is to extract from external sources personal data for a single individual, and something like this could maybe help in understanding the real value of such data coming from different external sources.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think this can be done. I haven't thought precisely about this use case, and we were working more on the use cases that we had with the telecom and with the semiconductor company. But I think this can be done with maybe slight adjustments of on the platform. But yeah.
And this could also help, let's say, in the context of a smart city approach. That's the specific target that we're discussing here, because it could be one of the tools that could help citizens to understand the value of the data that can propose to cities platform to be integrated inside cities platform. So it could be a useful part of the whole picture, something like this.
Correct.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So essentially, if you had the data set, say, on mobility of Prato and Piraeus, two of our demonstrator sites who are looking at mobility, you would be able to see what the value was of their existing data around mobility. But then if we added personal data from all the citizens, you would be able to, more or less just subtract or just see the difference in value of adding the personal data. Is that
yes?
Yeah, brilliant, right?
That's correct, and that's one of the uses, like the differential data value. That's one of the uses that we were also thinking of, like merging, let's say, two data sets, or improving a data set. How does this change the value of yes, that's perfectly doable.
Oh, excellent. So, any other questions or comments?
It's Alex here from Scotland. Sean, perhaps, and it may be too sensitive at the moment, but there may be elements of coming out of the pandemic that mean being prepared to share data has some sort of a value as to whether or not you can travel, or there could be use cases in what I'm saying which are local and pertinent, but again, there could be discrimination, so one has to be very careful.
Maybe let me add here. There's one, because you mentioned the pandemic situation. So we at Know-Center, also in the course of SafeDeed project, we did also a demonstration which is called Corona Heat Map, where we let's say, processed on the one hand very personal mobile phone data, so where people are around, so this kind of geographic data where a smartphone is moving, and on the other hand with the infection data in a privacy preserving way, so that we see in a map where are the clusters of COVID arising, but not revealing the original data. So this is the big advantage of these privacy preserving technologies, to combine and compute and process data without revealing the original data.
And for countries with tourism,
yes,
these are
definitely.
important,
yeah.
very, very important considerations. And I think that we will see perhaps business cases, business plans, countries thinking differently in the future about interaction with citizens.
Maybe to add on also, or Michnia, maybe you can elaborate a bit on that. So the we'd also trying, I don't know how far it's implemented, this PSI algorithms into the data valuation component, so that you're not, let's say, transferring the entire data set to the data valuation component.
Yes, so we are, this is work in progress, and we expect it to be done probably in the next couple of months, to integrate the PSI protocol with data valuation components, such that when you're parameterizing your data, so when you're answering to your data valuation, so when you're answering to all these questions in the survey, the answer to these questions, because sometimes they may be business sensitive, there may be business sensitive information over there, the answer to this question stays away from a third party. In the case where the data valuation would function as a platform would function as a third party, then this information will stay completely hidden from the third party, and then the algorithm using the PSI, the valuation algorithm, together with the PSI, would be able to generate directly the scores to the user without knowing what the answers of the user are. It's without the algorithm being revealed the actual answers of the user. So that would be that's one of the improvements that we're working on right now. And two things that also don't appear in this current demo but are already implemented in the backend are a couple more data quality metrics, the uniqueness and the credibility, three: uniqueness, credibility, and timeliness. And there was something else which I'm missing now. Yes, so there's work that has been done on top of what I've showed you right now. Yeah. Right, the chance estimators that I was mentioning before, the classification chance estimators, and the anonymization risk analysis, which is a very useful tool for when you're dealing with a data set which contains personal data. Essentially, what the de-anonymization risk analysis is able to do is that it's looking at the risk of when you're performing a anonymization algorithm on some subset of fields that you have declared as being potentially holding potentially sensitive information. So we're performing different levels of k-anonymization using these fields, and then we're trying to assess the risk of still being able to de-anonymize this previously anonymized data set. So we're saying, okay, you anonymize your data set based on this, and this fields. This is the risk of an attacker still being able to de-anonymize this data set, and we give this under the form of a probability score, so something between 0 and 1. And I think this is a very useful tool that was developed by our colleagues.
Research Studios Austria.
Yes, at RSA. Yes, at Research Studio Austria.
Well, if there are no more questions, I would just ever so much thank you both for the presentation. And I'm ever so glad that Jürgen hasn't turned up, because it meant we were able to get a lot more detail from you, and that we'll definitely go play with your tools, and it's been great. So thanks ever so much to the pair of you. And so what we'll do now is, seeing Jürgen hasn't turned up, we'll move to Pablo, who is one of the partners in Data Vaults, who will just talk to us about their application, and it's a Spanish energy company he's from. So over to you, Pablo.
Thank you, Son. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Let me check one thing. Okay, let's start. Good morning, everyone. I'm Pablo Garrachina, project manager at MIW Energía, and it's a real pleasure to be here and participate in this third workshop of the Citizen Control of Personal Data Initiative. Okay. Is it moving? Okay. Okay, first I will speak briefly about our company. Then I will present the kind of data we manage. After that, I will explain the current and future uses of data, with having examples of several H2020 projects we are participating. And finally, I will introduce some barriers for those uses. MIW Energía is an SME electricity retailer and energy service provider. We were founded in 2013 in Murcia, southeast Spain, and we operate nationwide. Our main goal is to differentiate ourselves from the competition, not being a simple kilowatt-hour seller, but an energy service provider. In order to give added value to our clients, we try to place the consumer at the center of our activity, and we bet on innovation to successfully navigate through the digitalization process of the energy sector. Our main activities, as you can see, is an electricity retailer. We also install PV plants for self-consumption. We perform energy audits, and we are also energy management software developers. We have experience in several research and development projects. Among them, we participate in 7 H2020 projects and 1 Erasmus Plus Knowledge Alliance project. You can see all of them on this slide. Okay, about the data we manage. Okay, we are in charge, of course, of the data consumption from our customers, around 120 gigawatt hours per year, and also the personal data that we gather for billing purposes with over 4,000 clients. So what are the current and future uses we envision for data? Okay, as you know, we are participating in Data Vaults, and there we intend to give value to personal data. And one of the scenarios we are testing is the use of this data to improve the PV installation design. Currently, we use patterns and profiles to calculate the optimal capacity of the plant, but having access to real data consumption from the customer, it will allow to customize the installation. In the graphic, you can see on the left the difference between the pattern data and the real data that you can see on the right. Okay. Sorry. That way we can provide more realistic results for the plan, reduce investment risk, and minimize the payback period of the installation. Okay. Sorry. Okay, another scenario is the use of data to improve profiling and enhance energy efficiency. As everyone is aware of, national and European plans aims to reduce energy consumption, and in Europe, the goal is to reach 32.5 reduction by 2030. With more information and data analysis, we can focus on the users with lower energy performance certificate or ratio, where the savings achieved could be more important and profitable. The main obstacle for both cases is the difficulty to access the energy consumption data, which is completely necessary not only to perform the analysis, and also because it's essential for the development of smart cities. With reliable data, we can also perform proper monitoring, measurement, and verification of the efficiency measures taken in a customer site. Hence, we can implement a kind of an ESCO type retribution system where those measures can be paid without an initial investment by the user, but sharing the savings with the energy company until the debt is paid. So that way, from the user side, during the first years, the savings are not important until the amortization period is finished, and after that, they will receive the whole benefit. Another alternative uses of personal data that a platform like the one developed in DataVolt could be the following ones. For instance, facilitate administrative tramitation. Also, use this platform to easily register in any app or service similar to the ones that use Facebook or Google accounts. But in this case, the data that is shared is controlled by the users thanks to this platform. The other use we can think about is the access to public funding. For instance, you could use this platform to certify the accomplishment of the requirements and also prove afterwards that the promised results are achieved. In other projects, we are using energy data and IoT solutions to transform existing buildings to smart buildings, upgrading the smart readiness indicator. Smart buildings and local energy communities will contribute to improve energy efficiency, reduce maintenance and operation costs, make possible a real smart grid. Also, it will allow to implement demand response into all types of users, even the small and medium consumers, and make users become prosumers, so they could benefit from participating in the energy market. In all these projects, we are testing different business models. Mostly as an utility, we are focusing in being a utility as an ESCO or utility as an aggregator. Where, okay, we try to balance the losses we have in our company from the reduction of energy consumption with these new services that will be incorporated in our portfolio. One final example from the Pharaon project is related with energy and health. In this case, I mean, everybody knows that the increase of elderly population is a problem in many places, as it requires an increase on the healthcare cost. Using energy and ambient sensors to monitor behavior will facilitate the implementation of remote care. It can detect anomalies that will make possible a quick response to any kind of event, and also could identify unhealthy behaviors before they really show up. All of these will improve the health and independency of the elderly population and also will reduce sanitary costs. To finalize, I will explore the main barriers that we see for exploiting data. The first one is the lack of legislation for data exchange. Okay, we had the preservation of data, of course, is already developed, but this data exchange is still something missing. There are no existing market yet. And also the difficulties, as we mentioned before, to get access to data. Even for us as an utility, we have to, let's say, fight with the DSO to have real data in real time, even for our customers. Also, one important barrier is the fear of the possible negligence in managing data and the sense of loss of privacy for the end users. And finally, there's no standardization for this data exchange. Okay, thank you, everyone. This is our point of view as a utility, as a retailer, and I hope you have enjoyed the presentation. Please, if you have any question.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Pablo. Are there any questions to Pablo? If not, the very last word on his last slide was about standardization. What we have been starting to do in this initiative is set up little groups to look at particular issues. And John Ketchell, who's present, has been looking at it, the standardization side of what we're doing. And maybe John would like to give a comment on the issue and what they did, what he's been doing.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Well, first of all, I'm not a data expert, but as I think I was briefly explaining in the previous meeting, we are in any case looking at data amongst other things in terms of the standardization effort in Europe for smart cities, and therefore citizen data will figure. It is a very slow process. Standardization kind of has to be anyway, because it's consensus driven and so on. I hope that we will in any case be able to get up and running properly with smart city standardization in this domain within the next year or two. We are now in the process of defining the work program for the technical committee in CEN, which is responsible for this area. I think one challenge is that the technical committee is got a lot of different issues to look at. So it will be, for example, looking at Europeanizing the existing international standards on smart cities. That's one whole domain. It will be looking at areas such as the sustainability side, and the citizen part is therefore only one part of this, and clearly the data part is only one part of the citizen part. And equally, of course, there are numerous, I would say, initiatives underway in Europe for data as such, and I suspect that the overall program is going to evolve fairly rapidly in the light of the European data strategy. But first of all, we think it's very important that there be some standards on data following on from the recommendations that we produced in the ETSI technical report, and B, that indeed that we can keep in touch with yourselves on how we can articulate this. What we're doing at the moment, as of this week, in fact, we kind of agreed principles to discuss a work program at the technical committee's next meeting, which is in September. I got a suspicion it won't make any critical decisions at that point, but we will move on and probably get something approved as an outline of a work program early next year, which will then mean that clearly we have to put projects together and so on. On the citizen side, we're going to start with really something that is another report. I mean, there is a risk of too many reports and not enough standards, but we really do need to make sure we can get the right people around the table, notably the cities themselves, whose articulation with the standards world is somewhat sporadic, limited, and generally speaking confined to certain enlightened cities who are interested in technology standards. So probably certainly by the time you meet again, I'll at least be able to maybe describe to you something in the way of the initial deliverable that we're envisaging, which I think will be a kind of a scene-setting thing as regards the need to change cities' thinking between moving away from the pure technology purchase side into something that is more citizen-oriented, and which then necessarily, hopefully, will factor into that report, at least the data element, quite clearly. And I would think probably we could be in a position to start that actual activity, assuming it's gone through its approval process in the spring of next year, and maybe complete it by the end of next year. So maybe that at that point or during next year, you will be able to yourselves contribute into that report. So that's where we are at the moment. As I say, it's a work in progress, and it will be a rather long piece of work, but never mind. I mean, you're just at your inception as well.
Well, yes, I was going to just say that if there's anything we can do to help, then just using our contacts, let us know. But you raised it yourself. So thanks ever so much for that, John. Any queries from anybody? Any comments? Because how we've been trying to work is to cover these little groups which tackle the identified issues which is in the ruggedized report. Clearly one of them was the legal one. Marina, who has been convening that group, I know she's got deliverables to be done this week, and she's working away. But I note that there's Vim and Fabricio, I think, who are part of our group. I don't know whether either of you have anything to say about it. If you're aware of what she's up to, if so, just do so. But if not, we can just catch up next meeting when Marina's going to be there. So I think if there's just to really round it up, I think what we heard from SafeDeed is enormous chunk of work of almost all of it have been value to what we want to do. I suppose what the idea is that by the end of next year, say, we would have quite a good, almost like a manual, but actually helping all the cities go through all the processes just exactly as you have done in SafeDeed, but also looking to have examples to show the main issue with cities is they don't really understand why they need to be doing these things. And if they do, the second question comes is, where does the budget come from? And so I think what we're been talking about today is a first step on the ground to answering those two particular questions. So if anybody else has anything to add and say, I'll just thank everybody for attending and contributing, and we'll meet again after the summer essentially. So if anyone has anything to say now, do so, or else we can all go have a cup of coffee. So thank everyone for attending, and I'll get all the notes and circulate them, and they will go on the Marketplace website in due course, but they're quite slow with the website at the moment, but we'll circulate everything. So thanks everybody.
Sorry, I think maybe we could also put something on the Data Vaults website in case there is a delay with the other website.
We've been doing that. We've been putting everything just tucked away on the Data Vaults website as well, and I've been circulating that until the Marketplace do reorganize everything, which they're trying to do.
They're a bit late in this job.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank everybody.
Okay,
Thanks a
thank
lot.
you so
Thank you
much,
very much.
everyone.
Thank you, presenters. Bye.
Bye.
Have a
Bye-bye.
nice day. Bye.